Hello, Catherine.
Hello. Hi, Carmen.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
So you like the space we are in today?
I love it, honestly.
The painting behind you?
Yeah, because I love colors. So I'm someone who really gets attracted to very vibrant colors. So when I walked in, I was like, whoa, it's so beautiful.
This is at Isola. It's a family office in Wyndham Street. Yeah, so we're happy that they welcome us to record here.
Yes.
So Catherine, you're the founder of Friday Club, an online media where every day feels like Friday, right? This is how you say it. So, as you say, you celebrate the art of living fully. On Friday Club, we can see, well, you have many different categories.
Yes.
But it's all about sparking conversations about either trending topics, but also, reflect on some other topics. So it's funny how we met because you told me that one of your friends kind of strongly advised you to post on LinkedIn, and and you started doing it, and thanks to that, I saw one of your posts on LinkedIn. So this is how I connected with you. I came across your profile with that post saying that you reached 1.5 million views in 8 months or something like that. And then I saw another post after we met about your partnership with the Hong Kong Tourism Board. And then you reached that campaign reached 17 million views or something like that. So congrats on that.
Thank you. It's still really unbelievable, honestly, that we've achieved those stats, because obviously it's really difficult being in a content space when there's so much content.
Yeah.
It's really hit or miss, but we're very lucky that we've reached those stats. And thank you to my friend who told me to post on LinkedIn, because I've always been a lurker on LinkedIn. I've always been there. I love reading stuff that people put out, but I've never really felt the need to post, maybe because I'm not very corporate, I would say.
Okay.
So I didn't really want to put out things and be like, oh, I don't know if this is valuable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or
Okay.
also even brag. I don't really know, but my friend who is a very seasoned entrepreneur, her name is Noah. She was like, you have to do it, because honestly, she was like, I've gained so much from doing it, whether through learnings and the connections that I've made. So I was like, why not? And I'm really glad that we've met through that.
Yes, me too. So as you just said, it's very noisy out there on the social platforms and everywhere. So when I came across Friday Club, I thought it was fresh content, fresh perspectives, not something I'm used to see. I have a question for you. How do you find fresh perspectives and inspiration in such a noisy world? How is it to find new ideas where you think everybody already had this idea, but actually you found something else, something new?
Yeah, I think what I did was I surrounded myself with people who weren't exactly, for example, in that mainstream media industry. So for example, my designer who designed that website, he's from a totally different background. And I think that's really valuable, because then you're not tunnel visioned. You're seeing something that they actually see with a fresh perspective. And I think that I've been very lucky in balancing that. I've brought in people in the team who have media experience, but I've also brought in people who are from totally different backgrounds, but very talented, who bring in those fresh ideas. And it's a matter of listening to different perspectives. I think people can be very stuck on their ways if they're very used to it, because it's difficult as humans. It's a sense of safety. You're I feel safe doing it this way because I know it works. But I think getting out of that comfort zone and being open to new ideas as an entrepreneur especially is really important. And I think I've really gained a lot from that.
Okay, so you surround yourself with, you have a diverse team, let's say.
Yeah.
What are their background?
I have someone from consulting, finance, which is totally different from media, very structured, but I think you need that discipline in any company. I have someone who has a very strong design background, but never like in media, more on e-commerce, like doing designs for restaurants. And then I have someone from a fashion PR background as well. So I brought in these people with very different kind of like backgrounds that are not from media. And then I have obviously myself who came from media, as well as other candidates that also came in from like other publications. And I think it's a really good mix of people, because then you have ideas you wouldn't have thought of, because you're like, oh, that's different, but why aren't we doing that? Like, why wouldn't that work? You actually don't know until you try. So I think we've been really lucky in having very talented people that aren't necessarily all from media, but it works.
So as you said, you have a journalism background. You were a journalist before. You worked at Sassy and Honeycombers, among other things. So what made you, because you quit your job, what happened there? What made you quit your corporate job without having another job waiting for you after that? So that was some people would call it a big risk, but I just call it like, if you know what you have to do. And I guess if you feel like you really need to quit, I mean, I get it. So what happened? And also, how did you, from quitting your job with no plan, how did you decide to start your own business?
I would say that it's not necessarily like that moment. I would say even when I was like in high school, I loved the idea of like starting my own business. So even in high school, very funny story was that me and my best friend, we used to go to people's houses to do makeup and hair for people. So that was a business that we had. And we had no idea like what we were doing. We would like go to the toilet and be like, we need to Google like how to do this updo, because we have no idea. But like I've always seen, I would say, opportunities in different areas for me to be like, I want to try this. I think it's a good opportunity. There's a gap. There's a market gap there.
But so people would pay for that?
Yes. So like I was very good at doing makeup, but self-taught. I did not have any experience. I would learn from like YouTube and like magazines. And my best friend was really good at doing hair. But obviously, because we didn't have that experience when we went in there, I think it's a matter of confidence as well. We wanted to like reassure ourselves we could do it. So we would like Google, we would watch YouTube. But we already at that age, I think I already saw like that whatever I was doing, I could see that gap. I could see that opportunity. So even at that age, I already wanted to like run my own business. And even throughout uni, while I was studying, I was running like an e-commerce platform that sourced products from Southeast Asia into Hong Kong. And then I also started a wellness business, which I'm still running to this day. So I would say was always into running my own business, but it wasn't until Friday Club that I decided to put so much at stake, where, okay, I don't have a full-time job to like cushion me and have that safety net. I have to fully rely on it. It wasn't until then. And I think I worked in other platforms before, wonderful experiences, I would say, but it was going to this point where I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't even like eat properly, because I'm very obsessed with my work. Like I'm someone who's like that, so it really affects me when I don't feel like I'm like fulfilled. So I think I just really had to go because of my mental health. And I had like an interview lined up, and it was with a huge publication. It was with SCMP actually. And I didn't end up going to the interview because at that point I already had this calling. I was already called to. I was in Korea, of like, why don't I actually just run my own publication? Because I would have companies messaging me of like, can you create this content for me? And I was like, why can't I just do it myself? So I called like really close friends of mine and asked them, do you want to do this together? Because I'm scared to do it alone. And that's when, Friday Club was formed.
Wow. Oh. Yeah, doing it alone, this is also a big topic for entrepreneurs. And many of the guests I had on the podcast, they say, don't do it alone. So definitely you were right. And you briefly mentioned your mental health. So I've been there as well when I was in corporate. I went through burnout. It was, wow. It was, I would say, an experience I had, and I learned a lot from it. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about burnout, because now everybody would say it, like, oh yeah, I'm tired, burnout. No, it's deeper than that. I think we should study this even more.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not enough studies around burnout to really understand what this is and what can trigger burnout. And I think it's not only, you will tell me what you think, but I think it's not only the workload, because we tend to think it's related to the amount of work you have on your plate. Yes, but not only. I think it can also be related to the misalignment with the values of your job, or the company you're working for, and your values. So I think, or maybe if you lose meaning. So all of this, I would say, contributes to burnout, and not only the workload.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think it's so many factors other than just the workload, and it's deeper because I also feel it's more prolonged. It's not like I'm tired today. It's more of like every day I'm feeling fatigue and I don't know why. So I do agree with you that it's deeper than that.
And how did you heal from this?
I wouldn't say that I've totally healed from it. I think
it's long, take times, right?
Yeah, I think it takes time. It's also something that comes back, I feel. Especially if you have certain personality traits. Like, for example, for me, I'm a bit of a workaholic. Like, I would work until 2, 3 a.m. or sometimes even longer than that. And because I want things done fast, I want things done a certain way. And I think that really, really is something that I have to work on and continuously work on, is how to tackle that. But I think I've not totally healed from it, but I have better coping strategies now to recognize. I would say when I recognize the signs, and this could be different for everyone, because I would say there are people who, for example, they add working out or like journaling into their routine and it really helps them. I think that helps me, but in small doses, and it helps me if it's not that serious. If it's really, really serious, I feel like solo travel has really helped me. Like I travel a lot with friends and with family, but I think nothing fulfills me or energizes me as much as traveling alone. I'm someone who really needs my alone time. I'm very introverted, actually. I love it. That. And whenever I'm actually traveling alone, because it's not about traveling. I think it's about removing yourself from your current environment and looking at your situation from a different perspective. It's actually, it allows me to tune in to my feelings and to my situation, and helps me reflect on like, what do I actually want? What are my whys? Why do I do what I do? And what do I need to do differently? It really gives me a lot of like fresh insights. And when I come back, I'm a lot more focused and a lot more energized. And this is something I feel has really helped me. So
have you made any decisions while you were traveling alone and had time to think?
I wouldn't say exactly decisions, but I've definitely reprioritized a lot of things while I was like away. I've kind of like realized a lot of things of like, okay, you need to know your priorities and you need to like, you know, according to that, put your energy according to that, because you can't do 100 things in a day. So that's really helped me realign myself back to my priorities, I would say. Even starting Friday Club, it was done when I was traveling, but it wasn't necessarily, you know, a big decision. It was more like, okay, this is my priority now in life, is to build something of my own, and now I know how to distribute my energy.
Okay. So back to when you started Friday Club. So you had no plan B.
Yeah.
Like so many business owners, because when you really want something, it's your objective. You have to make it work. There's no plan B. Otherwise, I think if there was a plan B, so many businesses wouldn't exist today, because if you have another easier option, then you don't give 100% of what you can do. So that's the thing about having no plan B. I have to make this work.
Yeah.
You had to pay your rent. You had to, earn your living. So
Yeah.
how did it work to, like, what made it, what's the element that made it successful? That made it like, okay, now it's growing. I can see that starting to make money and having, partners and sponsors and all of that.
I think honestly, we did not have any partners until the 4th month of starting it. So actually the first 4 months, we were like really, really stressed out, because we're like, we don't know if we can keep running it like this, but also being realistic. Most startups don't make money at that period, but we just had to, because we had no plan B. And like, for me, I don't know if this is fortunately or unfortunately, I did not have that golden parachute. A lot of people, they have a golden parachute, whether that's, a trust fund or like a spouse that has a decent living. I did not have rich parents. I had a single mom, actually. So I did not have that. And I think that it is unfortunate, but also very fortunate in a way that it really motivated me of like, okay, it's either you make this work and you don't. And I think ultimately the element is that we're very aggressive. Like when something, we're very good at trend listening. When something emerges, we want to do it right away. And we really sit down and plan, how do we do this in a way that's different, that's meaningful to our audience? So we know our intentions really well, which is that our audience needs to gain something from this. How do we make sure that they do? And how is the best way to really represent this? So I think we're very aggressive in that way. We're very fast paced. And I think most importantly is we're very careful with the content that we curate. So for example, if it's a brand with ethical issues, we would never cover them whatsoever. Even if they pay us, we would not. So I think we have our intentions really clear.
Okay. Do you have an example of, I think it's great that you are focused on that, a fast-paced, you have a fast pace, because especially also as a media business, but especially with, the world now, do you have an example of, trends that you spotted and then you really actively acted on it?
I would say there's a lot of things. Like, for example, recently we knew about like Harry Potter today, like got casted. We're already working on it. Like when we hear something, I think having someone on your team who's very good at trend spotting is so important for a media company, because they're really in on like what's gonna come out, what's gonna be big. So I think that's one of the examples, but we do it all the time with like fashion as well. When we start to see certain fashion trends emerging, we do it for F&B too, I would say. But yeah, I would say in general, and pop culture. I think pop culture is a really big one that we try to cover, but we make it relevant to our audience.
This is what helps you grow as well with your first guest star, I would say.
Yeah. It really, really helped us, like having pop culture, but we make it relatable in a way, like what can we learn from these instances? What can we learn from these figures? And I think, that's what really, really helped us as well. And I think strategy, like knowing the market, knowing what's missing, what's your competitive edge, and how you can really harness that to your advantage is really important. So strategy, I would say, and every month, because your strategy can change depending on your situation, your growth. So reflecting on your current growth and then re-strategizing, I think that's really important. So we know our strategy very clearly, and we know what's our positioning in the market, and we really try to highlight that with every single piece that we do. I think that's really helped us with
very
our growth.
Focused. Yeah, for the people just wondering, the guest star, it's from Emily in Paris.
Yes.
What's her name again?
Camille Raza.
Yeah.
So she came in December for the French Film Festival, actually. And Hong Kong people, they love Emily in Paris for some reason.
Everybody loves it.
I actually really love it. I know that it has its haters, but I just find it to be really easy to watch and entertaining. If you don't take it seriously, it's actually very entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now it's time for the rapid fire.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay, let's go.
It's easy. 5 questions.
Okay.
If you answer like without thinking too much.
Okay.
Okay, so what's your favorite place in the world?
Oh my gosh, Bangkok.
Oh,
yes.
You answered right away.
Yes.
Why Bangkok?
I love the energy and I love the authenticity in there. Like it's growing so much, but there's that very like still very real, kind of very raw energy and so much culture. Food is amazing. So yeah, Bangkok.
Are you also a fan of their cheesy toasty at 7-Eleven?
Yes. any food there actually, in the 7-Eleven there.
Do you have a quote or motto you live by?
Oh my gosh, this is really hard. This is not rapid.
I know. Something you tell yourself, to just get boosted or...
I would say take it easy because I'm someone who wants, again, like to do things fast in a certain way. And I sometimes need to remind myself that, it's not that deep. Like,
that's a good one.
You can just chill sometimes. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, because we care so much, it's our life's work. We need that reminder to be like, you know what? If this tiny decision is not going to impact you or this tiny thing is not going to impact you the next 5 years, like just leave it.
Yeah, I like that. I should apply this more. Do you have a book or podcast, movie, series you would recommend?
I actually love this podcast, and I'm not saying it because I'm in front of you. I love podcasts because I do like, for example, putting it on while I'm on a treadmill or while I'm going somewhere because I absorb so much. So I love this podcast. A book, I would say The Alchemist. It's one of my favorite books. I have it actually tattooed on me, so I like it that much.
Okay.
Because I think it's a book that reminds me of like what is your purpose and to live purposefully. Like make sure every day you are really aligned with what that is.
Okay.
Like there's just so much noise in this world, and it's really important not to get caught up in that.
Yeah. Your idol when you were younger?
I would say I've always loved Beyonce, like growing up, because I love music and I love her work ethic.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And last question. A simple habit to take care of your mental health?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's really walks. Because other than I mentioned to you, we co-work a lot, but most of the time I work from home. And I think it can get very overwhelming. But even if you don't, like when I was working in an office, I always felt like, okay, I just need to go for a walk.
Fresh air.
Yeah, I feel like it really helps with like your mental
I think
health.
it reactivates as well the creativity. If you're stuck on a white page, and you're like, blank page, I don't know what to write. And you go for a walk and you just think about just anything else or daydreaming, and then you come back to your desk and I don't know, it kind of resets your mindset, your brain, your whatever.
For sure. And I think like one more thing for me is like learning how to trust your body. I think that's something that takes time because you need to be very in tune with yourself, but like knowing when certain things are not right and knowing when to take a break, for example, when to pause. I think it really helps like your mental health. Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. That's the end of the fireside. See, it was easy.
Yeah, I did not know about this fireside.
I know. It was a surprise, but I think you did well. And yeah, I like to ask these questions to kind of know the person better and just compare from a guest to another. I like to see that. Anyway, so the target audience of Friday Club is mostly Gen Z. We can say that. So what are the specifics to attract Gen Z, and are there topics or angles that you cover more because they are more interested in that?
I would say they really value authenticity above
Okay.
anything else. So anything that you put out, it can be professional, but there needs to be that authentic touch. It cannot be too polished because
Okay.
they don't like resonate with that. And I think
Okay.
as you can see, like if you do a lot of research on this demographic, their spending habits are also very different from other
Oh, how
like their
so?
predecessors. They're a lot more, I would say, they care a lot more about ethics, and they care more about emotional the emotional aspect of things.
Okay.
So for example, if they're luxury brands, for example, they're actually struggling to capture this demographic because they no longer connect with that. They're not easily swayed by like marketing.
Yeah.
They're not easily like swayed by that. They need to know like, why do I need to care about this? Why is this worth my resources? Especially with the economic climate that we're in. Like Gen Zs were raised in a rather and right now they're put in a rather challenging economic climate. So they're a lot more, I would say, picky and choosy with
Yeah.
what they
And
invest
skeptical
in.
about marketing. How can
Yeah.
you be authentic
Mm-hmm.
and a luxury brand at the same time?
Mm-hmm. I would say it's really showing vulnerability. I think that's what Gen Z's value is. They can relate to being vulnerable. They're not afraid to be vulnerable. And I love that about the Gen Z generation, actually. They don't care about being too polished. They care about showing their struggles. And I think that's something that a lot of brands can like learn to do
Yeah,
to
but like
capture them.
your Chanel, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
how can you? I mean, you probably don't have the answer, but I'm just reflecting on this. Like Chanel, of course, there's a lot of like the brand image is amazing, but how do you show the vulnerability when you're Chanel? You know what I mean?
I think it's
That's a
really
big
difficult.
challenge.
I think it's really difficult. I think the whole system of what luxury is in general may need to adapt to what
Yeah.
Gen Z wants.
Yeah.
And I think another thing other than authenticity is ethics. They're very socially conscious. And that's also why we really are careful with what we feature and make sure that it's ethical, because you can get canceled so easily by the Gen Z demographic if they feel, oh, you're not ethical. So we also try to highlight a lot of social issues because of that, because it's something that they find valuable. They love learning about social issues, and I think it's important in general to shine light on these issues and educate people on them. So I think, like I would say being aware of ethics and being more authentic. And I think it doesn't only have to be vulnerable. It could also be funny. Like I think Gen Zs are not too serious too. They love it when you're a little bit witty and they connect with that.
Yeah, because I think, we're going to see more and more businesses focused on, targeting Gen Z. For now, not so many businesses. Well, obviously TikTok probably, but we don't have TikTok in Hong Kong. But yeah, I'm curious to see in the future, how businesses will target and attract Gen Z over the years. Like maybe in 5 to 10 years, maybe the landscape will be different. Companies will drastically change their strategy. I don't know. I'm just so curious to see what will happen.
I actually think it's the companies that start adapting to them now are the ones that are going to be successful, because by then it will be like too late. Because the earliest Gen Zs, like the oldest Gen Zs, I would say now are like 28. So they're already reaching that age where they have disposable income. They don't have, some of them may not have kids yet, so they have that income to spend on things, but they are very careful with it. So I think the companies that are adapting to them now will be the ones that will succeed. And I think even Gen Alpha, they actually
So Gen Alpha, for you listeners, if you don't know, it's the generation after, younger than Gen Z, right?
Yes, but I think they've already like influenced a lot of pop culture. Like there are a lot of terms that people don't know what they mean, and it's created by
Like
Gen
what?
Alpha.
Do you have an example?
It sounds like nonsense, but it's created by them, like skibbity, like toilet. Like people ask me, what does this mean? And to be honest, I did not know what it meant, but I asked my team and they explained to me it's a game.
Oh,
So even like
okay.
stuff like that, yeah.
We have so much to learn. Now I start to understand, my parents when they were like, when I used to think, oh, they're so old, they don't understand. And now the older I get, the more I understand them. Like, oh, what is this word? I don't know.
I know, trust me, it makes me feel like that too, but I'm lucky to have very like trendy teammates. I always ask them like, what does this mean? Like, can you tell me?
So about your teammates. So now you have a team of 8 people, if I'm right? Yeah. That includes your husband, right?
Yes, so I have a team of 8, and then I have my 2 other co-founders as well.
Okay.
And then I have a video producer, an editor, and then I have 2 interns as well. Yeah, very, very grateful to have such an amazing team.
How was it because you kind of grew quite quickly. So how is it to adapt to all these, growth stages, and to suddenly, I guess your work is a bit different from when you just started, because now you also have a team to take care of, to manage.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
I'm still learning how to handle it, honestly, because I actually am I'm not a very effective manager, because I'm very hands-off when it comes to, I don't like to micromanage people.
Yeah.
But it's not always the best, because it always depends on the individual, right? Because some people want more support. Yeah. So I think I'm still learning, because it's still very new for us to be like, oh, we have this whole team. But yeah, I think we needed that team because we were getting to this place where people demanded more quality from us, and they demanded more like quantity as well, which we physically just could not pump out. Yeah. And I think commercially as well, because other than the Hong Kong Tourism Board project, we have monthly celebrity covers, which is super taxing, because you need to do a whole shoot, you need to find like brands, dress them in these items, and it's a lot of work. So that's when we were like, okay, we cannot handle all this work by ourselves. Yeah. We need people. And I think it's a matter of like, at that time we were just juggling so much, and it was not good for the business. And we were like, actually the ROI of having, these team members is actually much better growth for the business long run than like us doing it. We save money on a short term, but long term, we gain so much more if we hire people. Yeah,
of course. Who was the latest celebrities you interviewed?
I would say the latest one that we had was Isabel Daza, who's a Hong Kong-based actress, and she's lovely because she has that local touch as well. So she has a podcast, easy.
Doesn't she?
Yes, she does. She has a podcast because she has a sexual wellness brand, and which is really, really cool, because she is from the Philippines, where it could be a bit taboo. So I always see her as like, she's very brave, she's very courageous, has that strong voice. She advocates for a lot of domestic workers in Hong Kong. So I have a lot of respect for her. So I was so glad to have her as our cover. And obviously she's based in Hong Kong, so having the Hong Kong skyline as the backdrop too, I thought it was so fitting.
So now that you're still growing and growing even more, what's the next big thing, the next milestone for you and your team?
I would say that actually for us, we're still at that stage of like really making sure the foundation is solid. I would say the next thing is we will probably have two more staff members. I think that's when we'll feel like, okay, everything is much more like manageable for everyone. And I think
you can stop working until 2 or 3 a.m.
I doubt that, but I think at least we feel like we have a good flow, because right now we're still figuring out that flow, which you don't see from the outside. it feels like things are so organized, but like not all the time, especially with media, like it's so fast paced. I think it's more as well, like we want to have a more regional presence. So we do cover things from all over Asia right now, but it's really difficult with the number of team members that we have to really cover everything. It's more like we really have to pick and choose, and even when we pick and choose, we're feeling like we're missing a lot of things. So I think eventually the next milestone is having even just freelancers, but having some sort of presence in our key markets like Bangkok, Manila, Singapore. I think that's going to be the next stage for us, and doing celebrity shoots in those key markets as well.
Oh, cool. Exciting.
Yeah.
And then the last question, which is the signature question of the podcast.
So
I ask this question to all my guests.
Oh, okay.
So is there any lesson that you learned and you would like to share with fellow entrepreneurs?
I would say like maybe 2 different lessons depending on which stage you're in. I think if you're still considering to start your business, I would say do not do what I did. And do not just go for it unless you have a golden parachute, unless you have a partner that can pay some of your bills. It doesn't need to be everything, but at least something, or someone you can rely on in case, things are really bad. I think having that is really smart. Or if you do not have that, it's fine. Diversifying your income streams could be another way of like having another side gig that's more stable, that may not require as much work as your business, but at least having that as like a steady income is really important. I would say only jump into it when the numbers actually show that you can support your lifestyle with
Otherwise,
this.
it's even more stress, right?
Yeah, it's stressful, and you might put yourself in really bad situations. Because everyone's situations are different. So I think assess your situation first. And if you don't have that backing, it's fine. I think just plan accordingly and have like multiple income streams to make sure you're not jumping into something that could be that you could regret or could be quite difficult for yourself. And I think if you already have your business, I would say the biggest thing is to trust yourself. I think for me, it's something I've had to learn. I think ultimately being an entrepreneur it's really like it mirrors life. For me, it's like, it really does mirror life. Every day you're solving a new problem, just like life. And you can't give up just because you have this sort of problem. So what do you do? And when you face those issues, it's so easy to get imposter syndrome of like, am I meant for this? Or like, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and be like, should I just drop everything and just like not do this? And I think ultimately when you get those moments, you need to anchor yourself by really developing this like trust within your idea, like trust that your idea will work. Trust that your decision making will lead you to where you need to be, and just ultimately just trusting your vision. And I think as an entrepreneur, in order to do that, you really need to have a strong relationship with yourself. And that's something that I think I've learned through time, is like whenever I face like doubts or like, every day you have a problem, you're like, oh, how am I going to get through this? Is this gonna work? Like, or if you're making a really big decision, you're like, is my gut feeling telling me to do the right thing? Is this true? And I think it's really up to trusting yourself and trusting your ability that even if you make the wrong decision, you can overcome that. And I think most of the time, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you already have that fire in you to do it anyway. And I think be realistic as well, because right now there's so many podcasts that I think quite dangerous in a way. They're like, oh, escape the matrix, be an entrepreneur, you can make so much more money and you can be on a beach, and like that is maybe like the 1%. Like the truth is a lot of startups fail, or it takes a long time before you get to that stage where you gain your capital back, or you're really at that stage where it's, let's say, successful. It takes time and it takes work, and it takes a lot of maybe tears, blood, sweat, and tears. So be realistic as well, because I think that also creates a very dangerous narrative of like, oh, if I'm facing all these issues, is it because my business is never going to work? I think it creates that unrealistic idea. I think
I agree.
It is difficult, right?
Yeah,
to
yeah,
run
yeah.
a business. So I think be realistic, and if you face an issue, don't panic. Like, a part of being an entrepreneur is the kick that you get from solving all these problems.
Yeah.
And I think if you love that and you love the thrill of that, you will be a very successful entrepreneur.
I really relate to everything you said. And I think that, it's a journey of self-discovery, I would say. But I agree that it's so dangerous, all these, people talking about their success, like they're in Dubai, it's like gold everywhere.
It's always those, right?
This is not the reality.
No.
Or maybe their parents are super rich people, or maybe, there's always something.
Yeah.
Where's the catch? There's always something every time I see people like that. I'm like, or maybe you are making money on some other people, interest or whatever, but there's something. And this is also why I started this podcast as well. This is also the purpose of this podcast, because I just invite real people who just made it through their businesses, and they had time of struggles, and they will have more time of struggles in the future. But all my guests, they just earn their living with their businesses, and and they're proud of it, and they as they should be.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a bumpy road, let's say.
Yeah, because there's so many things you can't control. And,
yeah,
and you're in control of your living. You're in control of sometimes other people's living, and it's a lot of pressure. And so it's not for the faint of heart. I think if you want to dive into it, you really need to want to do it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so honest, so open about it. Yeah, I love that episode. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
No,
and
I
hope
loved it.
some Gen Z people also will listen to that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I hope that it really gives a very authentic picture of like what it means to be a business owner. Because as I've said, like, it's not like that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carmen.